Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, The Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. That's right, it is time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. We'll talk to Blake just in a second or so. In the meantime, let me give you some contact information, because when you hear today's show, you're going to say, I need to find out more about that. It's easy to do. Call Blake in his office. His office phone number at Sloan Realty Group is 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD, or you can just go to blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com, real easy to do, and search and make sure you get the Sloan Realty Group. You don't want to be confused. We'll give you that contact information several times over the next 30 minutes. In the meantime, let's bring him in and start the show. Here's Blake Sloan.
Good morning, everyone. Got an awesome news show this week. Definitely close this year out strong, and I appreciate Dave coming in on your day off, their vacation to do this. But we had an awesome show. We have a special guest, Jeremy Knapp. He's one of our my business partners on our listing side. He's kind of my right-hand person, and we're going to talk to him about kind of how we're finishing strong, what our culture is like, and really he specializes in sellers and helps me a lot. And so say what's up, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
And so we'll talk about kind of what's going on with our world, how we're prepping for 2019, how we're prepping for the reality of the marketplace going forward, and we'll kind of dig into those. Also, they will talk about the brand new market numbers. They're very interesting to say the least, and it kind of really backs up what I was predicting a few weeks ago. We've seen a decline here, and it's one of those things that it's obviously a little interesting coming off the hurricane bounce, so to speak. But we'll talk about what those numbers are, how they apply, and really how that we're using that as our advantage and help our clients create a competitive advantage in that marketplace. And that's something we'll talk about as well. Another cool article that we'll talk about is Myrtle Beach was named the top 100 places to retire. Huge news for us. I'm not sure if y'all talked about that in your morning show, Dave. Did y'all see that?
Yeah, well, we talked about that. Like I said, I've been on vacation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so that's a brand new awesome thing that we'll talk about, because that's a lot of our clientele, right? We're very well dialed into people up north, and they're coming in town. Obviously, we're targeting very highly online. People used to think I was crazy to do that as just like internet kid who is figuring out how to get lead from up north, but has played off and played very well for us in that regard. And also we'll talk about, if you have time, we're ramping up big time for 2019. Our team has huge momentum and massive amounts of buyer leads, and so we're looking to add 1 or 2 A players to our team in January. And so anyone you know that may be a great fit, have them reach out to us. We'll talk about that and some more success stories as well.
Well, we got a big time show in front of you, in case you haven't gathered already what we're going to be going on. Like I said, if you want to get in touch with Blake, it's easy to do, 843-808-SOLD. But, if you don't know who Blake is, this is the very first time you're catching the show. He's been called the real estate whiz kid. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal. He's been on Realtor magazine, other national publications as well. You've seen him on NBC TV. You've seen him on Fox and Friends with the morning show. You've heard the endorsements on this very radio station from Glenn Beck, from Sean Hannity, also Gary LaVox, Barbara Corcoran as well. Now, all those put together is just unprecedented in the real estate world, especially in a market like this. Now, every week, Blake also gives you a little bit of a teaser as to what he does. He's got trademark systems that he uses here exclusively along the Grand Strand. And the most important part of that, he likes to share with you. But if you want to find out more, you got to talk to Blake. But at least, Blake, give us a little taste.
Yeah, so this is like become my calling, right, in regards to my why, my purpose for being in the industry. Obviously, for me, it's a lot bigger than just trying to sell some houses. And really, it's kind of how we make a dent in the industry as a whole. But the reality is, and especially as this market shifts, as we may see that happen, what happens is really the comes down to success and failure, right? And so the single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes down to one thing only. And that thing is the agent you choose, because it really comes down to how they execute. People make a huge mistake thinking that all real estate agents are the same, and it could not be further from the truth. Just like any attorney, right? If you're charged with a crime you did not commit, you don't want to just pick any random attorney. You want the absolute best, right? You want the same thing for your largest asset, and that's obviously what makes a massive difference, because the reality is, in selling a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, guess what? That puts money in your pocket, property actually gets sold. We talk about that all the time. But the reality is, if any of those balls are dropped in that process, or they're not the right things in the right order, that's going to cost you money, aka your hard-earned equity. It's also going to keep your house from selling. We see that happen over and over again, right? Houses listed for 6 months, not sold. It can be something as simple as a buyer inquiring on your house and the realtor not answering the phone. Anybody had that happen before? Right? It happens all the time, because the way the business model is set up is you got one agent trying to juggle around like a person with their head cut off, trying to do all these things is not possible. And so the reality is these buyers in today's time don't wait. So what I did is we identified every single one of the variables, and we created a system that's proven and repeatable and reverse engineered every single point to create maximum leverage. So what we do is we create small leverage on point number one, small leverage on point number two. And so at the end, it creates a massive gap between us and everyone else, and ultimately gives our client a huge competitive advantage. That's called the guaranteed sold system, right? The only proven system to sell them twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And for buyers, guess what? Whole different set of variables, over 100 variables from A to Z. Obviously, how the agent executes matters. And so that's called our unfair advantage home buying system. And it gets you priority access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation, both in the purchase price and also the home inspection process. And there's also a team of both employees and agents, vendors that have your back through the process to help push you through that. And it goes back to what we always talk about, right? If you have someone that basically runs a marathon, everyone takes off at the same time, but some people finish 2 and 3 hours ahead of time. Guess what? That's the same thing that we do with the marathon of home sales, right? I just had a friend of mine named Rick Steele. He's actually one of my business groups. He was a guy I was telling you guys about that he spends like $150,000 a month on pay-per-click. Like he has this company called Select Blinds, and he just sold a company for like 70-something million. But obviously he helped me figure out pay-per-click on a high level. Well, he does Ironmans, and he just did, I think, his second or third Ironman, and he cut 3 hours off his time.
Wow.
And so that's done in what? In small increments. How do you execute the details all the way from not pushing too hard on the bike, right? Making your transitions from swim to bike to run. And that's the same thing we do in the home sale process. And I'm constantly obsessed with how do we shorten that gap? How do we create advantage for our clients? And that's where both these systems came from. And ultimately, what Jeremy will talk about in a few minutes, is what gives our clients a huge competitive advantage. And so as we talk about a market shift happening, that means you need someone who's actually good, right? You can't just have anybody who's brand new in real estate throw a sign up and do an open house and get it sold. You need somebody who's going to be the absolute best. And so the reality is you don't want someone who's never done an Ironman before trying to help you do an Ironman. And so that's something we'll talk about here today in a few minutes.
All right, we got a big show coming up, so don't go anywhere. Coming up in just a minute, we'll give you the real estate update to find out what the latest numbers are as we look back and look ahead as well. Plus, interest rates, what are they? Big, important numbers you need to know. Hopefully they're not too big, though. That's coming up in just a second. If you want to find out more, call Blake today at his office at Sloan Realty Group, 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD, or go online to blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. It's the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Hey, it's your friend Sean Hannity. Now, if you own property in Myrtle Beach, the national marketing plan of the realtor that you choose is absolutely
So this was the last page of what you gave me. You probably need that.
Thank you. The contract.
Blake has a marketing system on a whole different level than anyone else.
So we're going to do this.
So effective at
Market
capturing
update,
local
success
environments
stories, and we'll
world
do
that you
we'll have
guarantee
the
to
time.
sell
We
your
got
home
10
at a
minutes.
price and a deadline that
You
you
guys be
agree
talking?
to, or
Go back.
Blake's going to fight. Although
Let's talk about-
agents rely
let's talk
on
about
yard
if you
signs and
realize,
open
like,
houses that
how to
attract
push
the occasional
intensity
buyer,
of,
Blake
like,
attracts hundreds of
meeting
buyers
stuff,
each
like, we
month, which
push
creates
hard.
demand and helps your property
That's
sell
something that
faster for top
we
dollar.
do for
That's
our
why on
clients, too.
average, Blake sells a property every single day of the year and is ranked among the top 100 agents in the entire U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Now, working with Blake is risk-free. If you're not happy, Blake gives you the freedom to cancel your contract and pay nothing. So give Blake a call today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or just go online and see Blake's interview on NBC at blakesguaranteed.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corcoran. To sell your home on time for the most money, you need a sharp agent with a marketing strategy that creates the most demand. Bottom line, you need a partner willing to put their own money on the line for you. In Myrtle Beach, I would hire Blake Sloan. His international marketing creates so much demand that if your home doesn't sell at a price and deadline you agree to, Blake will buy it. Partner with an agent I trust. Go online or call and get your home sold.
It's the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Coming up in just a minute, we'll find out the interest rates, mortgage rates, what they look like this week. Hopefully they're not going up, but we'll find that out in just a second. Right now, let's find out what the latest market update looks like and see what things are looking like around the Grand Strand, Blake.
All right, so brand new market update. This is kind of, if you guys remember a few weeks ago, we talked about me traveling up to the West Coast and talking to other agents, and they had this big conversation of a shift, right? And so what would necessarily a shift be? People didn't talk about this. And so a shift's kind of like a slowdown, right? And so like I've talked about, I've been studying this for years and years. We're almost always about 6 months behind the West Coast, parts of Florida, Vegas, kind of the hotter markets, right? And so it allows us to position ourselves very well when that happens. And so that's something that's really kind of very valuable to do. But the reality is we just saw a decline in the market last month. And so if you guys remember 2 months ago, we had the dip from the hurricane where it was like down 40% or something, right? So we had the bounce back last month where sales were up. For example, in October of last year, this year we had 549 sales. Last month, 381 sales, and so that equates to a 13.6% decline in sales from October last year. So if you compare this November, apologize. We're in November. So obviously, the show is recorded in December right now. The numbers are always in arrears if I confuse everybody. And so November's numbers always come out in the middle of the month, which is right now. And so the reality is the sales were down 13.6% compared to the same November last year. Obviously, that means, guess what? There's a little bit of softening. And so there's a pattern here when you study this, which I'll talk about in a second. But if you look at the good news, sales price is up, because we always know, I say this all the time, that sales price is always a lagging indicator, which means it's supply and demand based. You can always really look at sales price about 3 or 4 months behind what you're seeing on a pressure standpoint, right? So as you see it rise, buyers fall in line and continue to follow that trend, will pay more money for the property, right? And so sales price up last month, 11.1%, which is great. Median price for single family homes, resale homes, is $224,900. Great news there. And that's one thing we'll look at what happened. The months of supply dropped, still down 1.9%. There's 5.3 months of inventory. What that means is if not a single home was listed in the entire MLS, it would take 5.3 months to sell all those out. And so it helps us gauge anything below 6 months is a seller's market. The one key number that we were talking about, I was talking about this with Jeremy a while back, is the days on market last month increased 12.5%. So it's taken 12.5% longer to sell. And so if you combine the two of sales down, right, about 13.5%, and the time to sell taking longer, you're seeing that softening in real time, right? And so it's something that you want to be aware of. Obviously, are we seeing a bubble or crash? No, not at all. But obviously, we're seeing, and a lot of that has to do with pressure of interest rates, right? People kind of backing off, things like that. I've always really been able to identify and study. We're very well insulated because we still have people selling from up north coming down here, right? So if your goal is to retire, they're retiring, selling down here, and they're selling their house up there for $400,000 or $500,000, coming down here buying a median price of $225,000, whatever it may be. And so that's something to kind of look at in that world. If you look at new construction in regards to closed sales, they were down 16.3% last month. And so you see it almost, if you look at all the numbers this month, they're almost all in alignment. So you're seeing sales are down, time to sell is taking longer, right? And price is still up, which is great in most cases. I think condos slipped a little bit. So new construction homes, sales down 16.3%. The good news, prices though up 16.9%. So 265, 170, and the months of supply down 3.7%, 5.2 months inventory. So what that means, there hasn't been a flood of inventory. We probably will see some into the January into the spring market. And so what this really means is you don't necessarily want to wait this year into the spring. If I had to give one piece of advice to our clients or anybody listening, obviously I do this to provide value. I would not necessarily wait to the spring. There's always kind of an idea people have. If you wait to the spring, the market could be significantly softer and the interest rates could be significantly higher, which obviously will hurt your chances of getting sold. Now, also, what do we tend to see? If you notice the first of the year, right, people tend to see their neighbors for sale signs up on the street, right? They wait to the first year or they wait to the spring. I would suggest and give our clients the advice, it's my opinion, is obviously you want to beat that this year a little bit from a spring market standpoint, right? You want to take a bit action earlier before rates continue to rise, which we'll talk about. And that's something that we'll be able to kind of dig into as well. If you look into condos, right, we'll come back to that. Condo sales last month for resale condos down 10.7%. Again, it's all in alignment with where it was. Sales price up 4.8% at $130,000, which is great. And the thing there, they're taking 3.7% longer to sell. And so that's just something that's important in that regard. I forgot to go back through the new construction for time to sell. Guess what? They're taking 14.5% longer to sell new construction homes, right? 174 days to get sold. And so that's something that's important to look at because you obviously see softening happening. That's nothing to be alarmed about, nothing not to sell and move on and move up or move down, whatever you're doing. But, it's all supply and demand based. If there may be a potential decline in price a little bit, Nationally, everybody's talking about seeing an increase next year. But it's something to be aware of, right? We are seeing a softening that we haven't seen in a while. I have friends in other areas across the country that are freaking out. And so what that means, you need somebody who's going to guide you, right? We'll talk about this in a second with Jeremy. But the reality is, this is when you need somebody good, right? This is when you're needing somebody that can help guide you, that can help drive traffic. And from my standpoint, I kind of like it when it's not this super fast gangbusters marketplace, because what we do actually matters, right? We're able to make a difference. These small details that we focus on allow us to create a massive gap for our clients and get their property sold faster and for a lot more money, right? And so if the market's super hot, somebody can put a for sale sign in the front yard, or their brand new agent who's their friend's, brother's uncle's cousin can help it put an MLS and get it sold sometimes, which gives kind of a false, I guess you say, sense of confidence there for a lot of people. And so the reality is, you're going to need somebody good going into this year. And so if you're thinking about selling, if you know anyone thinking about selling, have them reach out to us. But you definitely want to take action. If you take anything from this, I would suggest taking action before the spring market this year, because you're going to see rates continue to rise, and you're also going to see a potentially more softening, which could obviously lead to more softening of price. So one thing that will drive that, interest rates, as you guys remember, it jumped over 5%. It's gone back down right now. This week right now, we're at 4.76%. We were at a 3-month low here recently. It jumped up a little bit this week. A 15-year fixed rate right now, 4.30%. A 30-year FHA, 4.30%. A jumbo loan, 4.48%, and a 5-year adjust rate mortgage is at 4.72%. And so a lot of people predicting next year that you're going to see 5.3 is kind of the fourth quarter 2019 numbers, which obviously does what? It may hold some buyers back because the cost of money is more expensive, right? There's going to be harder to go off on, and it's obviously going to, I guess, turn some people away from moving up to a larger house if it does cost them more monthly. And so the bottom line is, take action now. Don't wait until spring market when rates are higher. Market may have softened more, or there's more fear in mind, right? Some people are trying to predict recession later on in 2019. Obviously, I don't necessarily think, obviously, don't worry about that right now in our marketplace here. But the reality is, take action now. If you have any questions, though, get advice. Get advice from us. We do it free all the time. There's no hassle, no obligation. We're just here to provide value. We know in the long term it comes back to us. So any question you have, give us a call at 843-808-SOLD.
All right, sounds good. We're coming up in just a minute. We got more great information coming your way on the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. We'll be going to talk about your hot buyers alert, and we've got some success stories and a special guest in the studio as well. We'll talk to all of those people and do all that stuff coming up in a minute. If you want to get in touch with Blake, it's easy to do. Call 843-808-SOLD. 843-808-SOLD is the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. You want your home sold on time and...
Well, about 10 minutes left, you think, or 8 minutes?
I had to sell my own. I went through...
Well, after the commercial's over, about 9.
Okay. If you would, we'll just do the hot buyers, and then we'll do that part, and then I'll go into it.
Okay. All right. Blake has a marketing system that reaches buyers from around the U.S. and around the world, and week after week, he attracts hundreds of buyers, and that creates incredible demand. And that's why he can guarantee to sell your home at a price and a deadline that you'll agree to, or he's going to buy. Plus, you don't really risk anything when you list with Blake, since if he doesn't live up to the contract, you walk away free and clear. It's really no wonder why Sean Hannity and I, along with real estate tycoon and Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran, endorse Blake. Call Blake Sloan right now, 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or visit Blake's website. That's blakesguarantee.com. blakesguarantee.com. Or listen to Blake's Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 or Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WRNN. Here are the phone number, 843-808-SOLD. That's how to get in touch with Blake Sloan, 843-808-SOLD, or go online to blakesloan.com. Time right now for your hot buyers alert. Blake and his team working with just a ridiculous amount of home buyers in this area. They're looking for homes in the Myrtle Beach area, ranging anywhere from $150,000 to $3.5 million. If you're in that range and even thinking of selling, or just want to dip your toe in the water and see what it's like, contact Blake immediately at 843-808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD. Why? Because there's a lot of people out there looking for your home right now. Inventory is scarce. Blake needs it. And he's just under 51,000 active home buyers, 50,988, according to the latest count of people who are actively on his website right now looking for homes, not just once a day or once a week, but once an hour maybe. I mean, these people are stalking this. That's the term you use, Blake.
Yeah, there's like right now, just looking at the site like Dave talks about, these are real people, like username, password account. from all over. Like right now, Rick Gross is on Colorado Springs, Colorado. We got Charlene Conley from Galion, Ohio. We got Galvin's Ferry, South Carolina, Copaig, New York, another one, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Lincoln, North Carolina. So the reality is we have buyers from all across the country, even internationally. And so the one thing I have not done is I have not pulled my foot off the gas from a marketing standpoint. A lot of people are pulling back even through the holidays, even through potential slowdowns. Like I told my team, like we're doubling down, right? This is when we grow. There's opportunity there because people are still moving here, right? And so the fact is, though, we need sellers. If you're thinking about selling, reach out to me, 843-808-SOLD, right? Your friends, your relatives, anybody you run into as you have these conversations throughout the holidays, you're probably going to hear, chances are, a horror story about someone who tried to get their home sold, right? At that point, I need you to club them over the head, right? Drag them to our office, but make sure that obviously tell them, so look, you got to call Blake Sloan, 843-808-SOLD. The difference in us is our business model. Our business model allows me to outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. That's how we have 50,000 people, right? Almost 51,000. If I was not, if I was a single agent by myself trying to follow up with these people, we'd be out of business. But our team model allows us to leverage that, which helps you out as a seller because guess what we do? We drive traffic. We have basically software that matches up buyers and sellers. And so super cool success story really quick. I want to get to Jeremy in a minute to kind of fill it out. But what I'm really proud of is Alicia. She had her Myrtle Beach home listed over 6 months with an average agent, only had a few showings, 0 offers, no real interest. She was super frustrated to say the least. The cool part here, why I wanted to share this one, is a radio listener referred her to us because the marketing system that we have, both the national and international exposure. We came in, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, had it under contract within 2 weeks. And so this happens over and over again. And one thing I want to do, kind of unorthodox here, is I want to pull Jeremy in, who's like my right hand on listing side. I've been with him for years and years. Sold 70 houses under contract last year. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, everyone, how's it going?
So he's actually my right hand, a lot of times in the listing side and helping sellers out. And so what do you see, like, what do you think makes us a lot different from a team standpoint? I mean, one of the things that we kind of see, obviously, when you're going in and helping consult sellers and things like that, what do you think makes us totally different in most cases?
Yeah, so really the biggest thing to me is our attention to detail. We're really extremely relentless on making sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed.
And so that might have something to do with, the intensity that the eye level. Like obviously, we had a very intense meeting this morning with the team, right? And it was a little uncomfortable for some. And that's one thing is that I don't mind bringing the fire there because we have such a high level. And there's a guy on our team that we set these daily wins as part of our culture, right? What's our win? We push hard to win for our client. And he had a goal and he didn't hit it for like 3 days in a row. And someone kind of got all over him. And he didn't like that, but that's our culture, right? And I came and said, look, we're a culture of winners here. We win for our client. We push hard. And that's just kind of who we are. What was that kind of experience like for you?
Yeah, you can feel in the room that it was a little uncomfortable for a lot of folks in there. But in reality, when looking back on it, it's really what helps us to grow as a team and ultimately give our clients a better service.
And that's one thing that I think from a culture standpoint, like we're aggressive, right? We don't apologize for being aggressive. I don't apologize for pushing hard and for pushing our entire team through that. And so that's one thing I think that matters in this case, is we talked about seeing a little bit of a softening, right? Sometimes it's hard to see that we're seeing buyers come in and we do a lot of things differently. What's a recent success story that you had recently?
Yeah, so this one I'm super excited to share. Linda and Terry, they moved down here from Pennsylvania about 6 or 7 years ago, and they are finally ready to build their dream home, their forever home in North Carolina. So Terry listens to us on the radio. He actually gave us a call. I met with Terry and Linda in person at their home. Beautiful home out in Conway. And one of their concerns was really the market in Conway. I know it takes a little bit longer in Conway to sell a home right now than it does in places like Myrtle Beach or whatnot. So that was their biggest concern. We came in, implemented our global marketing blitz, and literally within weeks, we had multiple offers for their home. We were able to get them top dollar for their home. And now they're able to move on to North Carolina and build their dream home.
And see, that's like, we see this happen over and over and over. That's why I thought it's important for you to share, right? Because it's not just Blake saying these every week. Like, this is real people, real lives, real listeners. And so the reality is, like, what we have from a machine standpoint works. And even like right now, right? A lot of our competitors and realtors, they're on vacation mode, right? We talk about this every week, talk about this in our team meeting. Like, people are just they're not hustling, right? They're just taking time off, waiting for the first of the year to start. We're building the 2019 now, right? And we've been pushing hard, obviously, in that. And you've been kicking butt in that regard. What's your thoughts on that? Kind of how hard we've been pushing to the end of the year?
Yeah, going off of what you just said there, I made 3 phone calls to 3 different realtors in the last 4 days, and I get their voicemail, oh, hey, I'm on a cruise. You know, while everyone else is out there cruising around and traveling the country, we're still out here grinding, trying to get homes under contract, trying to get homes sold.
And that's one thing that matters, like what sets apart from a team standpoint. Like, you're an individual that has, you're by yourself, which is 95% of agents are across the country. And I'm on a cruise. What happens when the buyer calls, right? What happens when the buyer submits online? And so the reality is it doesn't get called back, and so that's the problem, is like, that's an opportunity to sell your house that gets missed. And so that's a problem in the industry, right? You have one single agent who's trying to juggle all the balls. They're trying to do, buyers, they're trying to work with sellers, they're trying to do their marketing, they're trying to do their administrative work, they're trying to do their contract to close. And so what that is the same person at McDonald's that does the front register, the drive-through, and the French fries at the same time, right? Not real effective, but yet our industry still operates 95% of the people that way. With our model, guess what? Team model. Not only are we intense, we have a team who's there, who supports, who's grinding right now, today, pushing hard to the end of the year. And so that's something I think that sets us apart in that regard. And what do you think is super important for sellers going into 2019, if there is a correction, right? A market softening, what do you think is most important to them?
Biggest thing I would say is definitely to get ahead of the curve. Right now, like you said, we see the number of sales going down. Prices haven't really adjusted yet, which is a good thing. But at the same time, we don't want to ride the market down. You're going to go ahead and jump ahead of that, so that way we don't get caught up with everyone else 3, 4, 6 months down the road.
Exactly right. So if you're thinking about moving 2019, it's crazy to say that, you want to make sure you're starting to plan that now, right? Use strategy to your advantage. Use the data to your advantage. We're big time on numbers. I'm a nerd for numbers, but at the same time, we're committed, right? Like, I'm super intense. We brought the fire to our team, and we're continuing that in the 2019 to make sure that we're obviously pushing the extra mile, right? We're finishing that Ironman 3 hours ahead of everybody else. So if anyone out there selling, if you're listening, I really appreciate that. But definitely anybody that you talk to these holidays, make them call us. Say, look, call Blake Sloan. I guarantee the system that we have will absolutely blow them away for sure.
All right, got about a minute left. Anything to say last minute here?
Yeah, one thing, Jeremy, like, just you're deep in this. We got 1 minute left. When they look at our guaranteed sold system, right, compared to what people have seen before, what does it look in their eyes like when people actually see it?
That's my favorite part.
Like, this is unscripted. I just want your true, real opinion. Like, when people actually see it, what do you see on their face?
Biggest thing is you see their eyes open up, and they have the look of almost shock on their face. I met with some folks late last night, and I went through it with them, and they said, "Wow, we've never seen anything like this." The realtors we use in the past, they have nothing that compares to this here.
Right, nothing written out, much less a step-by-step system. So super powerful. Reach out to us, give us a call. We'll make sure we get you the results that you need in 2019.
All right, that's real easy to do as well. Call Blake today at 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD, or go online to blakesloan.com, blakesloan.com. Even though we're heading towards Christmas here, we'll see you again next week, right?
Yes, sir.
You won't let the foot off the pedal at all.
No, sir, not at all.
All right, all right.
It'll
This is
look
the
crazy.
Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Hey, Myrtle Beach, it's Gary LeBox.